Yo, what's going on guys, welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video we're going to be looking at the best 10 brawlers to push in Power League and also max out, because you're going to get a lot of value out of these brawlers. So just quickly before we get into it, then make sure to check out my streams on Twitch. I'm streaming pretty much every single day around 3 to 5 p.m. at BST time, so make sure to put that in your calendar every single day except for the weekends. Pushing a lot of Power League, so if you really want to learn some tips, make sure to check me out there. So jumping into the video straight away then, the first one of course is going to be Shelly. Shelly is literally everywhere in the meta right now, and still to this day people are still underestimating Shelly, which I just don't understand, because you can go her everywhere. Maybe I need to do a Shelly guide so you guys can really learn how to play her perfectly, even on the maps that you may not consider like the best for her, you know, the more longer range maps, but she's just so strong everywhere. So more often than not, when you play Power League, especially the higher ranks, she is often banned out, but the odd time which she just sneaks through the radar, you can just go her pretty much everywhere, first pick, and you'll be absolutely carrying. She counters so many different brawlers. Of course, she really hard counters the tanks, but not only that, she can actually counter the more long-range snipers because of that very fast movement speed and also her clay pigeons as well. So Shelly's super broken. Of course, you guys probably already know that, but make sure to max her out anyway. Okay, so jumping into the next brawler you need to max out for Power League, it is Gus. So I've been saying this for multiple months now, jumping on the Gus bandwagon, and I think Gus is a very strong brawler right now in Power League. So one reason why I absolutely love playing him in Power League, because he never gets banned out, even though now he's actually being drafted as a first pick on like Brawl, for example, which actually used to be one of his weaker game modes because he doesn't have the damage output. Yeah, he's been drafted just so early. People aren't banning him out, which just makes it even more of a priority to max him out, because you're going to be able to play him a lot. Of course, in Knockout and Bounty, he's such a solid option. In Gem Grab, he's the best gem carrier. In Brawl, he's probably the best mid, because he actually also counters some of the other meta mids as well, you know, like B, for example. And just overall, he's such a strong, consistent brawler. I think the only game mode that he's not strong in is Heist. So making sure that you're maxing out Gus for that Power League grind. Okay, so jumping into the next brawler you need to max out, it is Carl. So Carl is always one of those brawlers that's in around the top 20, but I think he's starting to sneak back into the top 10 for sure, because a lot of the other top 10 brawlers got nerfed. But anyways, Carl is such a strong brawler when it comes down to Power League. Again, another brawler which is often like better towards the end of draft, but actually isn't banned out so often, if you get what I mean. So you can always, you know, think of a Carl last pick in that sense. And, you know, you think of other brawlers in comparison that get banned out a lot more, which fulfill his role. Like Buzz, for example, Ash, they get banned out so much more, whilst Carl actually has more carry potential. He's actually a lot better in a lot of different instances, and he's just so good in every single game mode. That's why Carl is probably actually one of the best brawlers to max out right now, because he's just usable on every single map and every single scenario. So for me, Carl is a must max out, especially for Power League. Okay, so jumping into the next brawler you need to max out in that Power League grind, it is Squeak. So Squeak right now is absolutely dominating in the metas. So for me personally, whenever the opponent has last pick, I ban out Squeak automatically. It doesn't matter what game mode I'm on, I just ban out Squeak, because he's so strong, especially since the buff to his star power gives him an extra 20% damage now to every single shot that he deals. It just makes it really painful for everyone, even more painful for the squishier brawlers, but it also helps him a lot more against some of his tank counters, you know, like Mortis, for example. He can actually take him down a lot quicker with his star power, even though he still gets countered by those aggro picks. I just think he's really dominant. Of course, he's got an overall decent kit as well, with his residue gadget being one of the best in the game as well. And I can look at pretty much every single map and every scenario that Squeak is already a strong last pick. Like before this buff, he was already starting to creep back up into the meta, and even more so now, he's just super dominant. Moving into the next brawler you need to max out for Power League, it is Gray. So we're consistently pushing the Gray agenda because he's such a strong brawler. When it comes down to Power League, people again just seem to forget about him, except for Knockout. I've seen banned sometimes in Knockout because he pretty much is the best brawler there, but across the board I think he's a super consistent brawler. And recently he did receive a buff to his fake injury star power, so if you have that star power, finally it's actually usable, especially on Knockout and Bounty, and it pairs really well with his shield gear as well. So Gray's of course such a fantastic brawler. He also has one of the best gadgets in the game with Walking Cane, which just allows him to make so many amazing plays and catch the opponents off guard, and also allows him to cycle his super much quicker. So of course He's a lot better in game modes like Brawl, Knockout, and Bounty, but he does have some use in some other scenarios as well. You know, Hot Zone, for example, can be a decent pick in dueling beetles. The only thing I would have to say about Gray is more often than not, outside of Bounty and Knockout, you have to pick him later on because, of course, he is quite heavily countered by a lot of meta brawlers like Mr. P, for example. But for now, I think Gray is still a real must-have max out. Okay, so jumping into the 6th brawler that you must absolutely max out, it is Ruffs. So time and time again, I still call that Ruffs is one of the best brawlers in the game. He's supposed to be a support brawler, but actually when I play Ruffs, especially in Power League, I actually think he's a carry brawler. The amount of damage that I can put out on the field is insane, and people just don't tend to ban him out, even though on some maps, for example like Hard Rock Mine, he quite clearly is the best first pick. He's so good into everything, and he's literally gonna carry it. Like, I pretty much get star player every single time I play Ruffs, which is bizarre because he's supposed to be a support character, but for me, he's absolutely insane. So, of course, you can't just literally go him everywhere. He's limited to range in the sense that he may not be able to go in some bounty and knockout scenarios, but still, I've seen him in knockout for sure. You know, he's a decent option in a lot of high maps. He's the go-to in a lot of Brawl and Gem Grab. I just think he's so consistent across the board that you need to max him out and start learning how to play Ruffs because he's so strong in this meta. Jumping into the 7th brawler to max out when you're playing Power League, it is Eve. So Eve is another brawler that kind of sneaks under the radar, but I think she's just so ultra consistent. Just easily like a, I would say, near enough like an A tier brawler, maybe even close to the S tier because of how strong she is in her particular niche. But again, she's just never banned out, and she's always that safe pick, and that's why I always like to go her in Power League because she's just pretty much good against everything. So of course in Bounty and Knockout, those are going to be her 2 best game modes, but you can still play her in some other scenarios as well. You know, for example, like Kaboom Canyon and Safe Zone on Heist. You can definitely still play her on some other Hot Zone maps as well. Just across the board, she's pretty decent. Of course, you don't really see her too often when it comes down to Gem Grab and Brawl, but you can still probably get away with playing an Eve because she's still pretty consistent. So for me, Eve is a must max out in Power League. So next up on the must max out list, we have Spike. So Spike recently received 2 buffs to his overall kit. He got a buff to his Fertilized star power and also to the Popping Pincushions gadget. So that gadget is only really decent in Heist, but it's actually usable in Heist. Now you can get a lot of damage onto the safe when you pair it with the Fertilized star power. I've been seeing a lot of people running this on Pit Stop, for example, and Spike probably is one of the best brawlers to deal damage onto the safe, if not the best, and he's also good at defending. So he's such a strong Heist brawler right now. And then I'm starting to see as well, you know, for example, if you draft Spike quite early, you can actually dictate what build you want to go, right? You can go the curveball with the vision and also the mythic gear, which is just really good in Gem Grab and Brawl. But for example, if your opponent drafts like a real hard counter, you know, maybe like a thrower or maybe like a Cole, for example, you can actually switch out the star power to give you a little bit more tankiness with the healing of the super, if you get what I mean. So at least you can throw the super on the ground, tank a lot of shots and push up. Before, you couldn't really do that with Fertilize because it was so weak. So for me, I think Spike is creeping up in the meta and definitely a must max out. Okay, so jumping into the next brawler that you must absolutely max out if you're playing Power League, it is Stu. So if you've been watching my streams, you know that I've been loving the Stu picks at the moment. He never tends to really get banned out, even though he actually is one of the best brawlers in the game. He's easily a top 10 brawler right now in the meta. So for me, he's an absolute must max out. Most of the time, people have maxed him out anyway because he's just been such a strong, consistent brawler for about a year plus now. But if you've not maxed him out, make sure to max him because he's got 2 good gadgets and 2 pretty good star powers, even though Gas Heal is a lot better. So in terms of the game modes, Gem Grab is going to be your best bet. See him drafted really early a lot of the times, especially because in Double Swoosh, for example, you can actually go him as a lane or a mid. I actually really like him as a mid because he holds a lot of power in the mid. He also got Hot Zone right now, which on every single Hot Zone map, they added back Dueling Beetles and the Open Zone, which are literally Stu's best maps. So you've seen a lot more Stu because of the changes to the map pool, and just overall, he's a really consistent brawler because if you've got that kind of skill with Stu, you can absolutely diff the enemy team. Okay, and finally moving on to the last brawler you must absolutely max out if you want to play Power League, it is Cordelius. So I didn't know whether to add him onto this list because a lot of you guys, probably 99.9% of you guys, haven't unlocked Cordelius yet. But for the people that are wondering whether to get a Brawl Pass this season, whether it's worth it, it is 100 million% worth it because Cordelius is super strong. And the thing is as well, you know, normally with really strong overpowered brawlers, normally they nerf the brawler, but I think because the Supercell team are literally on holiday right now, they're on vacation, we've probably got about a month of a Cordelius meta, so you're pretty safe in getting a Brawl Pass for now. And also, he's just really consistent across the board. Even though he's really strong, some people don't know how to really play him or how to counter him, and I just feel like he's always left out in the draft period. Even at the highest level, I'm actually getting Cordelius quite a lot in my drafts, and I tend to get star player every single time. He's also got a really good kit overall, and I just think he's an absolute must max out. Alright guys, it's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one. So I hope some of my tips were pretty useful. I've been trying to get on the guide grind recently, especially the last 2 videos been a Power League guide and also a best build guide. So let me know down in the comment section below if you made it this far, and let me know what guides you want to see. I'm a little bit busy this July, but hopefully I can prepare a lot of guides for you guys. So that's gonna be it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.